Hey guys, welcome back to Creative Blends, and this is the fourth part of the Toon shade tutorial. By the end of this tutorial, you are going to be able to do something like this. I guess it looks pretty good. So I'm gonna just start right now. This is where we were in our last Toon shader tutorial. So we're gonna start from here. I'm gonna just change the color into my liking. This somewhere here, and this something darker. I'm gonna keep the opacity at 0.1. Yeah, so that's what I wanted. So let's just start. Over here there are two things I'm gonna change. That is, instead of the texture coordinate node, we're gonna add in the geometry node. Now make sure to enable the node wrangler add-on, because we're gonna use a lot of that, and it's just a slightly better to use this. That's the reason we're using that. In the outline, I'm gonna just add in the greater than node over here, and uh, by we can adjust this and bring in some completely outline, or 0.5, which is the standard, which completely makes this cut that I quite like. So I'm gonna keep this in here and rename this as outline overlay, and the we're gonna just bring that before the dynamics. There is another thing I need to do before going further. We're gonna add in a noise texture. What we're trying to do over here is giving some kind of like a painted look in between the lit parts and the shadowed parts. So a math node, and connect the color into the value and the value into the color. And right now, by adjusting the scale, you can kind of like make some painted look. You could even use musgrave textures, etc, etc. So let's just make in a few parameters for this as well. uh, I'm gonna just bring this in here, and the value is gonna go first, scale is gonna go second, detail is gonna go third, and the roughness, if you want, you can keep it, but as for the distortion, I'm gonna not use that at all, because it gives this really bad effect. I don't like that. So value, I'm gonna name this as uh, noise power, and I'm gonna copy the noise and then paste that into the detail and roughness as well, and we're gonna bring that at the top, because this works in the shadow parts, so it's better to keep them organized. It's gonna help you afterwards. So I'm gonna bring this as well over there. The next thing we are going to do is we're going to kind of like making this contour shading effect. I'm gonna bring the detail below. Yeah, so the scales default value is going to be 0, and because if the scale is at 0, then we're gonna get this effect. Now the noise power, you can see does what it does. I don't need to explain that. And the next thing we're gonna do is, I'm gonna just bring this inside over here, is the contour shading effect. So first I'm gonna just show you how to do that outside. We're gonna add in a layer weight node. The facing goes into the surface. We're gonna add in an map range node. Now you can see that by making the values more and less, I can create some good effects, but the problem is I'm gonna keep actually this at 0.5 and this at 1.5. The problem is the white, which is the 1 value, and the black, which is 0, is kind of like we need to invert that. So I'm gonna add in an invert node and we get the effect we are looking for. I'm gonna copy this and then come inside, paste this. I'm gonna keep this in here and duplicate this. I'm gonna select these three and put this inside. I'm gonna rename this as contour shading and I'm gonna copy that. Right now we are gonna duplicate this, Alt P, and put this in here, and this one goes into the result, and we're gonna add in an emission shader over here and connect this into the color and a shader to RGB node. And right now if I connect this, you're gonna get this emission kind of effect with the white. This is in a way correct, but not particularly. I'm gonna keep this at 3.5 and then as for the color, I'm gonna just duplicate this into this one to make a few more parameters. As for the color, I'm gonna connect the base color into the color, or you could actually personally put this into a new one and select the color, but what I actually usually do is use the same base color, and the emission really works well. I guess I'm gonna keep this at 1. Yeah, 1. So we're gonna make a few more parameters over here. This one 2 max is going to kind of like control the opacity. If it's 0, then we're gonna get the default. So what I'm gonna do is put in the 2 max at first and then come in here, and for the 2 max I'm gonna paste the contour shading we've put and put the default value at 0, minimum at 0, and maximum at 1. And then we have our scale, which is the contour shading blend. I'm gonna name that as this is gonna be the from minimum and from maximum and the emission strength. So this is going to be the contour shading blend, and the strength is gonna come at the top. I'm gonna name this one as contour shading strength. Even you could name the same way for this, contour shading strength, a blend. Now we've got our contour shading effect. The next thing we are going to do is kind of like a gradient effect, or let's just do the specular effect first. We're gonna add in a glossy PSDF, connect it into the surface. You're gonna get something like this. We're gonna add in a map range node and a shader to RGB. Now right now I'm gonna keep this at 1 and this at 4, which is gonna give us this effect. I'm gonna keep the roughness at 0.1 and we have our specular over here. This is actually not just what you need to do, but if you want to control the uh, you know, offset of this specular separately with the lighting as well, kind of like if I move, it's gonna move. If I move the lighting, it's gonna move as well. And extra, if you want to change it, kind of like what we could do is we could add in a geometry node, vector math, normal goes into the normal, and we could add in a combine XYZ node, connect the vector into the vector and the vector into the normal. Now I can use the X and Y to kind of like offset it. I'm going to show you. uh, let's just use the Y and Z. Different times you might want to use different ones. Like if I keep this in here, I guess X would work better. I guess it does not work better at all. So I'm gonna just copy this, delete it, and come inside over here and duplicate this, paste it, and then put that inside over here. Now the specular is going to always be on the top, so it's gonna be over here, and this one is gonna go over here, and I'm gonna put this at something near here. And what we could actually do is bring in the group output over here. I'm gonna move that over here, and we could connect the color over here into this one, this into this one, and this over here. Now we could rename this as base color, this as plus contour shading, and this one as plus specular. I'm gonna rename the frame as a specular, and I'm gonna copy this specular. Right now if I connect this specular over here, you can see that this specular comes in the this as well comes contour shading, but nothing else comes over here, right? So that's what we were I was seeing. It's cause this is the one that we have right now plugged into our surface, and so none of the other ones that are over here are going to work. I could actually put this in the here, which is going to be the plus rim light. This one is the ambient occlusion. Yeah, ambient occlusion. So I'm gonna just put this in here, and no, this must not go there. Just a second. Yeah, so this is the softness of it, so this must go into the color, and this is the total one. So I'm going to rename this as plus rim light, and the last one as plus AO. Now if your ambient occlusion is after the outline, make sure to keep it before it, because it's going to give you bad effects, or else we were over here. Yeah, so I'm going to duplicate this and put one over here, and right now you can see that I could use this to make it sharp or smooth. Now if I want to make this into a softer one, I'm going to just pretty much go inside. I could just kind of like make this smaller and make this as well, which gives in that glow effect. So I'm gonna right now connect these. First goes in the color. It's always the color that goes first. The color, specular color, and then we have our roughness. The roughness is going to act kind of like the size, so I'm going to paste it and write as scale. maximum is going to be the 0.5, because until then the roughness kind of like increases it. As for the color, I'm gonna rename this as specular color, and the from maximum, and the to minimum and to maximum is going to be the opacity. And then we have our dynamics. The X is going to give you some bad effects, so I'm gonna not use the X one, but only the Y and Z. uh, if the Y and Z does not work good for you, or if the X works better for you, then not a problem, you can use that as well. You can see that this gives a bad effect if it goes into the shadows, so make sure it does not go into the shadows. So the next thing, you can see that if it's at 0, then it does not go into the shadows whatsoever. And the next thing we are gonna do is I'm gonna just rename all of these. This is gonna be the specular opacity, and specular opacity is gonna come over here. This is gonna be offset Y and offset Z. And the next thing we are going to do is a gradient effect. For that, first I'm gonna add in a gradient texture. Control T if your node wrangler is enabled, and instead of the texture coordinate, we are going to use the geometry coordinate. The normal goes in there, and the next thing we're going to do is add in a map range node over here, and this kind of like does all these thing that we need. And we're going to add in a combine XYZ over here into this one. Now as for the rotation, all three of them are going to be needed, okay, right? So all three are needed, so if you want, you can directly connect this in this one, but the way I do it is I individually plug it over there. So I'm gonna copy this, delete it, come inside over here. I'm gonna duplicate this over here, paste it, and put that inside. Sorry. Yeah, so this goes in there. I'm gonna put this one before the specular, so it's gonna go in here, and duplicate this math node. If your node wrangler is enabled, you could alt shift and directly connect this into the factor, and put this into the bottom color, and this color is going to be black, and this one is going to go into the factor. And right now I'm gonna just connect one more over here, that's this one. It's gonna come before the specular. I'm gonna name this as plus gradient yeah, so we're gonna add in that plus gradient we have over there. I'm gonna just bring that before the specular. And the next thing we're gonna do, I would say, is I'm gonna just kind of like make the color that I like and add in the plus gradient over here. Right now you can see some gradient effect over here. Just a second. we are going to add in the specular, I guess, to see the specular as well. Yeah, so right now we are able to see the specular as well. Now you can see that we have our gradient over there, because if I customize the color, you can kind of like see that we have it. Now what we could actually do, another thing that we can do is duplicate this and take this and put this into the top color and keep this at a white, I guess. Let's just see if it's white or black, and again alt shift and connect this into the factor, and you could actually duplicate this, put this into the bottom and this into top. I'm gonna just make this invert that, and you could put this into the factor of this one. This what this does is you can actually kind of like right now either put this at you know, just a second, let's just try this at black. What I'm trying to do right now is the kind of effect that gives you this. Okay, let's just try again this one. Let's just keep this over here and invert it. Let's just try that one. Or let's just keep this in here and let's just put this at black, and let's just see if invert works. If it works, yeah, so the invert works. So you can actually directly put the invert into the factor. What we are doing right now over here is I'm going to just delete this too over here, and in the color right now I could either put the gradient for the shadows, or if I bring in the factor to 0, then I could put this gradient into the lit parts. And this special thing over here is I could use this to kind of like do all the other works. I could use this to kind of like make it more or less. Then we have our rotation that we can use to kind of like determine the place. I'm gonna just click shift and use it. I'm gonna try to click 90, I guess, or 26. Let's just see. I'm gonna just change the color to see what's happening right now, because it's not that prominent. I'm gonna change it again afterwards. Yeah, so let it be the normal one, and I could use the Z to bring it from this side, and then use the X value to make it more. If you want, you could make it more softer, and you could kind of like make the opacity less, and then I'm gonna just keep the color over here. You can see what we could do. This really helps in art styles like One Punch Man, etc. I like that, so I just showed you of how to do that. So this is gonna be the gradient color. I could actually put the gradient color somewhere over here. Right now I'm gonna just again show you how to do it for shadows as well. This works in the this one as well in the lit parts also. It looks good. Dark colors. I could actually make this, invert this, put the color at something like this, and use these to make all the things that we need. And I could use the x value to make it less or more, and use the invert to invert it. I'm gonna put this at something other than that. Yeah, you can see we have it. Let's just try. Let's just try everything at zero first, and see what we can do. The from this works, and for this it's completely inverted. If it's at 1, then it's something like this. 0 is gonna give you complete this. So I am gonna keep this somewhere here, and then let's just see. And then I could change the color as well into something like this. Now what I usually don't use it on the shadows, cause on the shadows barely even anyone sees the shadows more prominently, so I usually only use it on the lit parts. But it's completely up to you which way you want it to be. I'm going to keep this at 1, and then the color is somewhere here, just like before. This is way too bright, yeah, somewhere here. And for now I'm gonna set everything to 0, the default value, because right now I'm gonna plug in these. So this is gonna go in here from minimum and from maximum. Then there's the opacity, and as for the dynamics, in the location the x1 goes, x goes in there, and as for the rotation, each and everything goes. Now in the rotation, the other ones work only if y is there. Kind of like if the y is at 0, then the z might work, but sorry, if the y and z both are 0, then the x won't work, right? So what I actually do is I never put the x1 over here at all, and rename this as rotation y. I'm going to copy that and put that into z, and then as for the x, I'm going to rename this as position, and 2 max is going to be the gradient opacity. I'm gonna put that at the top, and the from minimum, from maximums are there over there. You can see none of these work. That's the reason I've not put that, and that's nearly it. You could right now put in the combined color in here and play with everything over here that we have. And another thing I would like to show you is about the map range node. If I add in a diffuse PSDF of how to use the map range node, and add in a map range node over here, connect this into the value and this into the result. Right now you can't see anything, but if I add in the shader to RGB in here, This nearly works just like the color ramp, right? So the thing that I like about the map range node is you can even control everything from outside the node group, and this you can even make something soft and something really hard. Everything could be made, and the thing is, if I add it into the stepped linear, this is where things get interesting. I could actually first make the offset of each of these colors. This is gonna be the light colors offset, this is gonna be the dark colors offset, and this is gonna be the opacity of these light ones. This is gonna be the opacity of these dark ones, and this step is where things get interesting. If I increase this step, we can increase the colors, and if I add in just an mix RGB node, keep this into multiply and put this in here, put this at complete this color, and kind of like customize this color. I could customize it, and with the first one I can make the color something like this. I could keep this at somewhere 2 and get the 3 colors, and 1 is gonna give us the 1 color. That's what I like about this map range node. But the kind of like controlling of how many colors you want, you could only use that in the hard edge. The other ones you won't get that, but the other ones are also really good. You can kind of like control this, and if you want soft and sharp ones more and more, I could just connect this into the value and duplicate sorry, not this one, duplicate this, add in this into mix, put this in here and this into the factor. I could just change the color into something different, and change this. I'm going to just show you this over here, and make many more colors over here. Like I could keep this at somewhere over here. I'm just showing you right now, and this one at somewhere here, and this one, just a second. That's not what we were trying to do. If it's this way you're using, then the way I would say is add in another mix over here, but keep this at factor, and then you can control these colors one by one, right? So that's what I like about the map range node, and that's nearly it. Bye bye guys.